Um, I just like to introduce things again and take things to the top. And the more that I see it, the more I'd like to, and I think the more important I feel it is to put things in perspective. And I'll try to give two different introductions just to give us perspective over here, trying to pull together what the Rambam has assumed in the Shurashim and what he's doing in the mitzvahs, and try to see where the Rambam's coming from. Okay? First of all, I've said this many times, but I don't think the perspective I'm giving now, I've said it all. Okay? The Rambam clearly in Mitzvah Tzadi Hey, and Asay Tzadi Hey, says he's explaining a new concept. He has a new type of mitzvah, which is really not necessarily tzivui, it's in the Arabic shurana. And he says something to make it into a tzivui, and he says the mitzvah is lodun b'aforos adom. There's no tzivui in the Torah about aforos adom. And he says, Kloima, haTorah she'reinu lodun b'dinim mohem, ve'eno inyan shenischayiv al kolponim, lahofi al kolponim. There's no tzivui, and there's no hechach and chiyuv to be made for the dorim. V'zeh ho'yim be'atzmo heib mimeni, kol zman shetishme'ani moine din echod min adinim. This is a prologue to all the dinim that the Rambam is moina in Minyan HaMitzvos. Ki ein tzivui bepula min hapulos behechach. There's no command per se to do something. Omma mitzvah he heyoseinu mitzuvim shenodem bedin zeh b'dov zeh. We have no clue what this means because the Torah doesn't say that you're supposed to be done by. Okay. Omnom heyois habau v'ov mefirin hine kvar beir hakosav oisai v'don by. And this he said as a derech agav, explaining what's going on. If the Torah has a parsha and talks about it and explains it, it must be a mitzvah, like something coming out of nowhere. That's what he just says, and we don't know where he's coming from. Shebe kvar beir hakosav. So all I just want to tell you, this is very clear that the Rambam is influenced and coming off and taking postulates which the Goyim assumed are Adova Parsha and working with them. You'll find, for example, Rav Sadi Goyim in Perek Ches of a Sefer HaMitzvos say that there's a din tefillah in a mikvah on a keli shenofa bo sheretz, because the Torah talks about a keli nofa bo sheretz and in v'shatav amayim. So the fact that the Torah talks in his dan about what you do with a keli nofa bo sheretz, so mela there's a mitzvah, a minyan mitzvahs keli shenofa bo sheretz that is tefillah. That is what he does. Okay, so the principle is a principle, and he in fact does an amazing thing. He calls all mitzvahs shera, which basically, if you learn that the word shera is hurah or whatever, okay? Now, this is the beginning, okay? The question is, you have this concept, the Ram uses it for din shoy machinum and din shoy mesacha and the mitzvah from shoyel and the mazik, that mazik odom, that there's a din of odom mazik and behema mazik and bor and esh, anything you want, these become mitzvahs, okay? Now, there's a second step, okay? We know that such a concept exists. Really, we don't understand it because we don't understand where the tzivui is and how it works with Sherish Ches. And the Rav in Sherish Ches clearly says the mitzvah tzivuyim. But this is a concept which the Goyim accepted, and the Rambam accepts it hook, line, and sinker. However, the Goyim, and this you'll see, this will be introduction to these mitzvahs coming up, the Goyim take another step, Rav Sadi Goy. the Goyim say that this concept could be used to take a large mitzvah, which you could have imagined conceptually as a mitzvah which would an umbrella of many things, include many elements, and break it up into its elemental elements, excuse the word, and become many mitzvahs. The fact that each one has a separate parsha and the Torah is danba, that itself is a reason to machalik mitzvahs and make them the separate mitzvahs. And this, when the Rambam, the whole Shiur Shvi, now I just want to read you some words to give backdrop to it. The Shiur Shvi is assuming this principle of Sadigoin and is telling us no, not to apply it to break mitzvahs up. And let me read to you the sentence and you see how he's saying it, and then we'll go back and try to explain it. Hine, diktuk HaMitzvah gam kein kishiyeh kosuv batera ein roy lemnoisei. Ki lo mipnei shebeir hakosuv v'diktuk oisa mitzvah o atnoim shebo nimna nachno kol tnai o kol prat shuhu diktuk v'noima shu mitzvah. That the fact that the Torah has various permutations of this mitzvah doesn't make them separate mitzvahs, even though the Torah is be'er hakosuv v'donbo. And that's what he says, Kvato b'zeh rabim, b'chol ma shemotzu kosuv. Anytime you had a pasuk in the Torah, parsha, mona believe the histaklus b'sherish HaMitzvah lo diktu kelvot, and we'll see what sherish HaMitzvah is. But this is the point. This idea that the Rambam is machadish, the thing is fikr, various permutations, expressions of the mitzvah itself. For example, korban oila, that you have ashiras and dalus and dalus. Of Sadigoin in Perek Chavav counts it as 3 separate mitzvahs. There's this way of korban oila, there's a second parasha, and there's a third parasha, 3 separate mitzvahs. The Rambam is ready to say that you can define a mitzvah based on the fact that Torah is a parasha and telling you something about the dinim, but to use the separate parashas as a modus operandi to define the separate mitzvahs, the Rambam rejects. And especially the Rav Sadia, because he's saying that there really is an umbrella mitzvah, an overarching mitzvah of this korban oila, and the 3 expressions, permutations of this mitzvah. It can express itself in ashiras, dalus, and dalus. And the Ram does the same thing in Chatas Kavua in Shiur Zion, that there might be a Chatas Kavua if you're Poshet Ehedit. There might be a Chatas Kavua if you're Kohen Moshiach. There is a Chatas Kavua if you're Nasi. And if the person violates Avodah Zarah in Parashat Shlach, there also is a Chatas Kavua. And all these are permutations of the same mitzvah. And Rav Sadigoin says, no, separate parshas. Not only we have this cloud that you can use separate a parshas from the Torah to set up mitzvahs, which, if you would use your logic to its nth degree, you have no clue how this works. Because if you postulate mitzvahs or tzivuim, you don't know what's going on. But he accepts it. But he says, Atkan, only I'm ready to accept it to tell you that the mitzvah exists. All the mitzvahs of Tumah are based on this. Tumas mitzvah, mitzvah, tumas mes, din tumas mes, din tumas sheret, din tumas nevela, din tumas zav, din tumas zova, din tumas yoledes, and etc., etc., etc. Din tumas oichlim umashkin. Okay. This, and you see What happens is, the problem is when you learn Shiur Shvi the first time and having no clue these principles, you don't understand what's happening. The Rambam is saying, true, there is this principle. But don't get it wrong. This principle only create a mitzvah. But the fact that Torah has permutations in the Torah Shebiksav and is done by, that's not a raya that it's separate mitzvahs, because if you conceptually look at it, it's one mitzvah. Okay? That's a very important point. Okay? Now, next. In fact, Rav Sadi Goin does this in many times. Not only in Perek Chavav is he have Chatas Kavua and many mitzvahs of Chatas Kavua, Chatas Nasi, Chatas Pakoi Moshiach, Chatas Hedyet, Sir Avodah Zarah. In Oshem Vadai, he has separate mitzvahs. Oshem Milos, Ashem Gzelis, and Oshem Shifcharufa. Because the Torah is three separate parshas. But the Rambam says the overarching thing is the Oshem Vadai. Then the Gimel mitzvahs in Korban Olah V'Yorek, Ashir is dollars and dollars. And also you have an amazing thing. The Rambam counts Chomesh twice, the Rav Sadi Goin, once by Mila and the second time by Gzela. And the Rambam says no, it's the ownish of a Chomesh. Okay. Now, because the Rambam says a very important thing, because the keveya of mitzvahs, and here is where he moved away from the Goinim, even though Sefer HaMitzvos is rooted in Torah Shebiksav, and that is the whole thrust of Shiur Sheni, it's rooted in Torah Shebiksav to tell you that you have something, you have material which you can imagine as a mitzvah. But how do you define different mitzvahs? It's different in Yonei HaTorah. If the umbrella says that this is one Inyan HaTorah, then you only count it as one. And it's very strange, the Rambam, as the master organizer, has decided that you define mitzvahs in terms of Inyanim, and it's not the simple way of Torah Shebiksav, and he moves away from the Goyim, accepting part of what they say, and say, no, when you want to define what is the mitzvah, it depends on Yonei HaTorah. It's an amazing thing. And the Inyan HaTorah is defined by what he calls the Shorish HaMitzvah, the Ika Mitzvah. So that's what he has in this line in Shiur Shvi. Ukvato b'zeh rabim, or how b'chol ma shemotzu kosu mono bilti stakus b'shorish HaMitzvah. You have to understand the umbrella, the overriding, the overarching principle, the overarching Inyan. V'lo fika into teneah. In other words, you have it this way, this time, this way, this way, this way. Dollars. If you did the Aveir from Chiv Korbachatas and you Hedyet one way, if you Kohen Gadol another way, if you're Nasi another way, it's only various expressions of the same mitzvah. And you have to understand what the mitzvah is. The mitzvah is Chatas Kavur. That is the principle of the Rambam. Now, next point. Now, so what does he say? And he goes further, and they say that, so what does he end up saying as far as we're concerned? That the mitzvah of Chatas Kavur and Oshem Tolui and Oshem Vadai and Korban Olah V'Yorek, which are the next few mitzvahs in front of us, the reason why the separate mitzvahs, he says in Shorish Yudalad, because the min korban, the separate three, the four types of min korban. There's a korban for Chatas Kavur, Oshem Tolui, Oshem Vadai, and Korban Olah V'Yorek. And he goes out of his way to say that you define this as in terms of the Averis which are Machayev the Korban. And if you look in Shirish Yudalid, he says, Ukva Yodata Shemine Mine HaKorban Yischalfu B'Ischalef Hu Avoinos She'Ischayev Aleim HaKorban Ahu. Somehow, each type of Korban is a function of the Averis Shemachayev the Korban. Lefish yesh min avoinos ma she'ischayev lechatas kavua, umehem ma she'ischayev le'em moshem vadai, umehem ma she'ischayev le'em moshem tolui, umehem ma she'ischayev le'em korban v'yod. And the fact that there are different Averis, we decided if we were chen lo nimne achatas im moshem, avo nimne chiyuv chatas kavua mitzvah samach tes, v'chiyuv moshem vadai mitzvah ayin aleph, v'chiyuv moshem tolui mitzvah ayin, v'chiyuv korban olav yored ayin beis. Is chayev oiseg a korban l'chol mishi is chayev. So l'cheira, I would have said that the reason why Yemon is a separate mitzvah has nothing to do with the parashas, a separate parashas, not parashas. It is because that is not meaningful. To separate mitzvahs, the only way we separate is in Yoni HaTeira, and the Ram says that the min HaKorban defined by the Averis sets up different in Yoni, min chatos, min oshem vadai, min oshem tolui, and min korban b'olivir. Okay. The problem is, the Rambam throws in a line in Shirish Yudalid, which is almost like a monkey wrench into a whole slew of gears. Because the Rambam adds on another reason why Chatos, Oshem Vadai, Oshem Tolui, and Korban Oil V'yor are separate mitzvahs. V'chein som hakosuv l'chol min mehen parsha b'fnei atzmo. So the reason why they're four separate mitzvahs is because they're separate parshas. L'boyne shalom, we don't have no way how to deal with that. Because if the mitzvah is bringing a korban for kapara, and all four of these different types of korban are fikah, are different expressions of the same mitzvah, the fact that the Torah doesn't tell you anything, that's kufu what Cherish Zion tells us. What has he added with this phrase? If you tell me that a priori I know they're separate in Yonif Minyani Atera, so I know something. But if you tell me no, that it's because they're separate parshas, we're left in a place we don't know where we're going. And even if you tell me it doesn't mean it's serious, it only is sad. You have to ask yourself, what is the sad? What is he adding? How does he add anything? Because the whole Shirish Shvi is full with separate parshas, and we look at his figure. And if the problem is that we would have looked at Korban Chatos, Korban Oshem Bada, Oshem Tolin, Korban Oviyot, his figure of a broad category of a Korban HaMachaper, you don't know anything new by the fact they're separate parshas. Why is it different than the Nosi of Chatos and the Kohen Moshiach and the Kohen Hegit? This is a problem. You shouldn't come back. Okay. I just want to say where we are. You shouldn't come back, okay, and tell me something else. You can come back and say. But the Ram does this again in Kuf Yud Zayin by Eilchin and counts 4 mitzvahs of Eilchin. Because if you look in Kuf Yud Zayin, he never did that. If you look in Kuf Yud Zayin, v'al yachshav choshev she'elu arba minim min ha'eilchin Yiyeh beineim shituf yichayev sheyimnu mitzvah achas, aber hein arba mitzvahs, yesh lechol achas mehen din zulas din acheres. Doesn't say anything Torah shebiksav. They're basically different. The omnam yicholum shem erech outside shitav Hashem ve'ein roish yimnu mini erech in kula mitzvah achas, kmo shelomdu yimnu mini akorbonos kula mini achas. And I assume what he means because Sefer in Yonei Torah. It doesn't tell you. I don't think we know anything. It doesn't. I don't think this is based the same way. You know that the Ma'aser Ula, the Ma'aser Chatos, and the Ma'aser Osn, the Ma'aser Zevach Hashomus are separate mitzvahs because we look at them as in Yonim. But the truth is the same problem we have with the Ramban, because the Ramban is why you look at all four as one, and everything is fikr. But the Ram, for somehow, whether it's because of the Teres Achatas and Teres Osham, whatever it is, the Ram assumes that Sefer Yonei Torah, and he also is Sefer Yonei Torah. He doesn't mention Kosu. He mentioned Kosu, that there's a parsha in the Torah to Mechalek mitzvahs and Shorish Yudalid as a reason for the mitzvahs which are in front of us. We have no clue of what he's talking about. Because if you accept that, you accept Afsad Digan. We don't know how you do that. That is the first ha'ala. What I want to do, I think it's important to maintain perspective and understand, not just to read the words. I think this is the perspective we're coming from. But the amazing thing is that a person who is mushlish in the approach of the Goynim would have picked up in Shorish Zayin that the Ram is referring to the Goynim, would have picked up in Shorish Yudalid what exactly is happening. But we, who are pretty much divorced, because the Rambam has sort of, taken over the arena, and basically everything else has been devastated, all the previous approaches, we have no idea where the Ram is coming from and what he's arguing about and what he's arguing against. That is point one. Okay, now, point two. Second, introduction. The reason why I'm doing this, because the next four mitzvahs we're discussing is Chatas Kavua, Oshem Tolu, Oshem Vadai, and Korban Oliviyot. This is the place you have to talk about this, okay? Next. And you notice the Rambam doesn't work very hard in these mitzvahs to explain why the separate mitzvahs is assuming them or just telling you that they're counting them. Now, next point. Now, we mentioned this, but I just want to bang it and show you how interesting and true it is. We pointed out that Shorish Yudalid, I think, is different than other Shroshim. For example, you have in Shorish Zayin, he'll tell you what not to count. You don't count fikr. You don't count expressions of the mitzvah. Very nice. He's disagreeing with Sadigoin, and he's telling you, we don't count various expressions of mitzvah, Chatas Nosi, Chatas Hedyet, Chatas Koy Moshiach, we don't count. We only count Chatas Kavur. Then he comes to Shorish Shishi. It also has a new principle. The Ram in Shorish Shishi just is the opposite. See, in Shorish Shvi, he's showing you how you integrate many different permutations of the mitzvah into one mitzvah. That the ashiras and dollars, you look at these three permutations of mitzvah, but all three is one mitzvah. That is putting together various sivuyim into one mitzvah. Then, in Shorish Shishi, he does just the opposite. What he does is, he says that a lois aseh and an aseh, for example, Tishbois by Shabbos, and a lois aseh, lois aseh kol malocha, which are basically the mirror image of each other, that the aseh and the lois are basically the same. One is in a positive commandment and one is a negative command. They're the same thing. The Ram says the fact that they're asay and the lois say you count them twice. Comes up Sadigain and says, "No, I disagree with the Shurish Shvi about Fikah, and I count Fikah galore." Certainly in Perek Chavav, the whole Perek Chavav is full with Fikah and other places also. But I also disagree with this principle, and I count Tishbois and Lois Aseh Kol Melacha as one mitzvah. If an Aseh and a Lois Aseh are in the same exact thing, I only count it once. And this principle, Rav Sadi Goin has in the Chasimus HaSefer, and it's on page 246 in Rav Sadi Goin. He writes, "V'kiven shahete le'echol bal chayim hamal legeil v'sheisei shesa hu ha'isa al ma she'eno mal legeil v'eno sheisei shesa." That the asay and the lois asay are the mirror image of the exact same. Hey choshmu eshteim shemitzvah achas. So the Rambam sometimes takes shroshim to pull mitzvahs apart and make them into many mitzvahs, and sometimes to put them together. In Sherish Yudalit, he really is doing both. And instead of saying you shouldn't do something, you shouldn't pull them apart or put them together, he formulates the shirish as eich yimnu hagdori mo'inchin, however you want to translate the word chadud. Okay? Because there really, as you think about it, really two problems. On one hand, the question is, do you look at the four inchim, four types of Mrs. Bezin as all one mitzvah? Or all four korbanos, the chatos, Oshem Tolu, Oshem Vada, and Korban Ba'olid, as all one mitzvah? But you can look at it in a whole different way. You can look at it as many, many mitzvahs. Okay? And this tension is what the Rambam is doing. It's not the complete absolute of all one mitzvah, and it's not many disparate mitzvahs. But here in Shirish Yudalid is not the fikah of Shirish Zion. What he does is an amazing thing. Rav Sadi Goin in Perek Yud Ches does an amazing thing. He counts all the different Mises Bezdin as separate mitzvahs. The Mises Bezdin by Shabbos, the Mises Bezdin by Bogazol, anytime you find Mises Bezdin is a separate mitzvah. Anytime there's a Chiyuv Kolis, there's a separate mitzvah of the Chiyuv Kolis. And anytime a Chiyuv Misei Shamayim, there's a separate mitzvah of Misei Shamayim. Okay. Now just keep in mind, I want to tell you what Sadi does and what the Rambam does, which is almost a Lilas Hadam. Okay? It's almost blood libel, excuse me. What's happened over here? Rav Sadi Goin never makes a statement that you count any time there's a lav with his malchus, that the malchus sees individual lav as a separate mitzvah. Never does that. He also never does that if you find the korban for Machal Shabbos, okay, korban chatos, and you find for bar on one of the arayis, which are chayve krisis, true, they're separate averis, but Rav Sadi Goin does not say that you count separate mitzvahs because of that. Rav Sadi Goin in Perek Chavav, where he's counting the various dvom which are boying on Shoigeg, he counts Ashem Shifcha Hufa, Ashem Gzelos, Ashem Milos. He counts Chatas Nosi, Chatas Hediyat, Chatas, Palkoi Mashiach, Chanosi. He goes through all the various expressions, what he talks about the fikr there. But this principle, you see, what the Rambam does in the Alilus Hadam, he assumes that once you're ready to say that any Aveira, which you chayiv koles or Mrs. Bezdin or whatever, or Mrs. Neshamayim for, is counted, so you should count every time you get Malchus, or count every time, every different Aveira be a korban. Besides the Aveira, the Chiv korban is separate. That Rav Tzaddik never did. And you know, Rabbi Isa, you know why he didn't do it? Because the expression of each individual Misa, you find in Torah Shabbat. Every time the Torah says the Chiyuv Misa, he says, Torah says your Musu in each particular way. We decide what way it should be. And the Chiyuv Kolos is mentioned in the Torah. And the Chiyuv Misa Shemayim is mentioned separately. In Malchus, there's no parsha. There's one parsha to say the hikil, the hipila, b'fono, v'hikil, v'kol, aboy yakenu, pen yoyis, pen yoysim. You can't count it in each individual case in Aveira because the Torah Shebiksav doesn't exist. Similarly, in Korban, the Torah doesn't say that there's a chiyuv Korban, a Korban Chatas for Shabbos and for Arayas. It just, we learn out that enemy chiyuv Kodesh, the loisas, the sheish b'maisa is a chiyuv Chatas. But you can't possibly do such a thing. The argument shows you Dalit is absolutely amazing. He's arguing against it, okay? But this is Shurish Yudalid, there's a tension. Do you count all the korbanos as one overarching principle? Or do you count all the different Averis? He says, no, you count them in a korban. That is his conclusion. Now, and he has set up this new principle, and that's what he's ready to say when he asks about it. Abel nimne mine oinshin levad ve'maskilo and Yudalit and Shurish Yudalit sreife her bechenek v'chein gam kein lo nimne kol mechuyev korban beyichud separately, each korban separately ad shenoima chatas shigas Shabbos mitzvah v'chatas shigas avodah zarah mitzvah abel nimne min korban gam kein levad kmo shenimne min hamisa. The dollar misas are counted separately. Similarly, the dollar types of korban amachaper are separate. V'chule. Ulechein lo nimne achatas imoshem, avol nimne chiyuv chatas kavua mitzvah, v'chiyuv oshem vadei mitzvah, v'chiyuv oshem toli mitzvah, v'chiyuv korban olav mitzvah. Okay. This has nothing to do with fikr of Shurish Zion. This is Shurish Yudalit that Kilu Alilus Hadam, that maybe every Aveira is every time you find the Oynish or Machape, it should be a separate mitzvah. Now, this principle, I just want to show you that this principle of chidud, that you count every sikh Onesh or every Geder, whatever you want to call it, as a separate mitzvah, I just want to prove to you two things. I want to prove to you that it's nothing necessary to do with Oynish, because the Ram is ready to accept this, even in a case where there's no Ma'aseh Aveira. And I want to tell you that the definition of the min Oynish, the definition might be that because it's a separate Inyan in Yonei HaTorah, and he's falling back to his basic principle that different mitzvahs are different in Yonei HaTorah. Now, if you bear with me, I'm going to skip a little bit forward, okay? To mitzvah say Ayin Hey. Just to give you an idea, because what the Rambam is doing now is the four mitzvahs of Chedud, which are korban. The mitzvahs which are Gedorim, I would say maybe korbanos hamachaper, whichever way you want it. Because look at Ayin Hey. Mitzvah say Ayin Hey is like this. He shetzivonu shetakriv korban Kol isha zovo shnisrapa'o mizoiva. The korban of zovo. Va'korban ahu hu shtei seirim o shnei b'nei yoina. V'zehu korban zovo. V'hi mechuseres kapora. Ad shetivyehu. Now we're coming to the point. Because before he counted Zav, and now he counts Zova. And the Ram has polemics with a fictional person who's questioning him. V'ulai makshe yakshe olai yikshe olai v'yoima acha shekorban azov hu kekorban azovo lo imulei simne min hakorban Yischayev boy, kol mish Yischayev boy, kmo she'asisa b'korban chatos, b'korban osham, v'vadai, b'korban osham tolu, b'korban oliviyevit, shemonisa. But what is he asking? He's talking about that the min, the same korban you bring for a zav, you bring from a zova. So the same way that he paskin in Chatas Kavua and Osham Vadi and Osham Tolu and Korban Oliviyere, that the min korban is the mitzvah, and you don't look at the separate manifestations of that, each particular singular case. You don't look at the separate mitzvahs, but you look at the min korban. Don't look at the Zov v'Zov as two separate mitzvahs. Look at them as one, because the same korban. This is Sherish Yadalit, the Sherish of ancient. Abu Rebbeinu Shalom, Zov v'Zova is because of ancient. There's a Ma'asavecha with a Chiv korban. What I want to tell you, it's very clear. Now listen to this. Let's see what he says. That was the kasha. He said, what did he say? Korban osham vadai, v'korban osham toli, v'korban oliviyere shonisa, kol echo b'fnei atzmo, mitzvah achas b'vad, v'lechashashta l'ribu aboynish, shechiyav ma kol oboyn, mehem hakorban ahu. You don't look at the various aboynish. Similarly, you do the same thing with zova zova. That's the Ram's kasha. Kain hine hoyiroi lecho sheloi sochush l'ribi hoishim sheish chayiv kol echem mehem korban oiv. The fact that there's a zov and a zova, that lecho should be irrelevant. It's the same min hakorban. V'ilu hoyu inyonei. Inyonei hazivus ba'anoshim v'noshim dova echod. If it will be one Indian and Indian Atera, that zivus of ish and zivus of ish would be the same Indian. Kamoshu b'shem. It just happens to be that name, but it's not one Indian. Sheshem zezov v'shem zezovo ois oz hoyuroi limnoisem echod. So you see very clearly in the Rambam, this issue of min hakorban is not because of Aveira, it's not because of Oynish. It happens to be that in these four mitzvahs, the Chatas Kavua and the Osham Tolui and the Osham Vadai and the Korban Oliviyere, that the min Aveira defines it, but the main mafrid, the main thing that separates them as disparate mitzvahs is very simple, different in Yonei HaTorah. And the Ram says, logically, the Makshe, who asked on him who is fictional Makshe, who asked on him for Zova Zova, is absolutely correct to ask. But he doesn't understand the Yisayid, that the min korban is because it's separate inyan in Yonei HaTorah. And the korban of Zav and the korban of Zova is a separate inyan in Yonei and just to bang this. But you see clearly over here that he's coming out. He's working off again. He's working off, that there is such a thing as this, which he says that you shouldn't. Why do you look at his all one? Why do you look at his four? How do you know that? So the answer is it's separate in Yonei Hatera. So it's an amazing thing. Rav Sadia looks at mitzvahs as looking at pure Torah Shebiksav, and the frame of Torah Shebiksav, the Torah as a parsha. If it's one parsha, it's one mitzvah. It's many parshas, many mitzvahs. And comes the Rambam, no. You could define a mitzvah based on the fact that it's a parsha. But once you know it's a mitzvah, you have to look at the broader picture. Is it one Inyan in Yana Torah, or is it more than one Inyan in Yana Torah? And that's the way you define things. And it's clear to the Rambam that Chatas Kavur and Chatas, and that's why that's the Ikar mitzvah he's talking about Shorish Zion. That's the Inyan of Chatas Kavur, the Inyan of Korban Olam Yored. And that's what's going on over here. You don't look at the fikr, but you look at the Inyan. In fact, the Ram is very clear, and shouldn't have any havamina to equate Zov and Zova to Maisavera, because the Ram Pirush Mishnayis very clearly in the beginning of Zvachim, Akdomat Zvachim, has what's called, he has like this, Hachelik Hasheni, she is chayiv hakorban, korb b'matzav mesuyim. There's a certain situation the person finds himself in, and that situation is machayev hakorban b'matzav mesuyim. Sheya'ar eloi, something occurs, something happens, and it's machayev hakorban. V'hu im nase zov, oy mitzayra, o shinit mameis, o hoyanozir, ve'in hevda b'kachim nitma b'shkogel, it goes on and on. Then he has a separate category, a chelik, which is choluk from a chelik harishon, which he explains in chelik harishon. He has all the different types of korbanos. He has chatas kavua. He has the all the different types of chatas kavua, the chasham Nasi, he has all the different types of Osham. Those are korbanos because of Maisavera. That's Chelik Arishon. This has nothing to do with Maisavera. The whole issue of Sherish Yudalid is not an issue of Maisavera. It's an issue of how you define Inyone Atera. And the Min Oynish, or the Min Mechaper, or the Min Korban would have defined it as one mitzvah. Now, I guess we can move on. I'm sorry, it took so long to do this, but I think this is very important, because without this, I don't think we can get started. Now, let's get started. Mitzvah samach tesva, mitzvah hatesha v'shishim. Hishet tzivonu sheyakriv kol mi sheshogag. What's the kol mi sheshogag? The Ram is very serious, wants to deal with what he pointed out in Shorish Zion, that whether it's a Nasi, or whether it's a Kohen Moshiach, or whether it is a Hedjit, any one of them, call me Sheshogag, Bechet Menachatoim, Hagedolim Hayeduim, Gedolim V'Yeduim. Gedolim means that it's Chayiv Koles, and Yeduim means not all of the Chayiv Koles are Chayiv Korban Chatos. It's only Yeduim, except for, and what are the exceptions? You have Pesach, Mila, Megadev. You need a Loisa Seh, and you need a Maisa. And also, Tumas Mikdash Kedoshav. Because Tumas Mikdash Kedoshav is korban olivierig, and it's not chatas. Okay, so if these chatoim, if you have these chatoim, then you're there, and then you're in this mitzvah because the min korban is defined by the fact that you have a separate set of chatoim which are machayev. And somehow, we don't know how they do, they merge together to make this min korban, this min oynish. Vu amor yis'ale, v'im nefesh achas techeto, b'shkogo, me'am ha'oretz. This looks very innocent, okay? But this is amazing. The Ram's done something over here. I just don't understand it 100%. What's this pasuk referring to? If you open up your Chumash, this is referring to Chatas of Hedyot, okay? He's using Chatas Hedyot as the source of this mitzvah of Chatas Kavur, correct? Interesting. In Samach Tes, the Mina Kotzer, he quotes a different pasuk. Lahakriv hayochid kol mechatos im shogog b'mitzvos leisaseh shechayom b'koros shnema nefesh kisechta b'shkogo, which is towards the beginning of the parasha. Frankly, Rabbi San, the Minyan Kotzer I understand. Minyan Mitzvos, I have no clue what he wants. I'll explain to you why. Because I'm going to use the Rambam himself to be a witness against himself. Okay? Open up, because the Rambam actually defines this himself. Okay? Now I'll show you. Open up. Here. He says in Shiur Shvi'i, I'm going to read you a quote from Shiur Shvi'i. The Ram's telling you why Chatas Kavur is one mitzvah. And he says, Umizeh hamin gam shigagas mitzvahs v'zeh she'akosav oma b'vayikra shemi sheshogag v'ovar al mitzvahs Hashem yakriv korban. V'zu mitzvaseh, v'hi shi'akiv ha'shogeg chatos. Achar kach limer ha'kosav seder ha'korban hazeh. V'kosav boi psukim. V'omim hoi ha'shogeg me'am ha'oretz, Yaakov kizbo sira. V'im hoi ha'nosi, Yaakov soyer. V'im hoi ha'kohen godol, Yaakov par. So how does he set up the parsha and the chiyuv of Chatas Kavur? There's an opening statement, an overarching principle that a chayte has to be a korban chatos, and then the Torah goes out and delineates the various different type of people that bring this korban chatos in different permutations. Correct? So you understand yourself that the mitzvah is not any one of these permutations, but it's the overarching statement at the beginning of the parasha, which is what he reflects in the Minyan HaKotzer, which is reflecting the opposite over here in Minyan HaMitzvos. Now let's go to the parasha. You'll see what it is. Rabbi say Perek Dalet. Let's start from the beginning. Perek Dalet Vayikra, Pasuk Aleph Vayidaber Hashem Moshe Lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael Lemor. Nefesh kisecheto. Bishkogo, Mikro Mitzvah Hashem, Asher lo se'asenu, V'yosa me'achas me'heino. He has to do something, he has to be a korban, colon. Now Rishima, if he's a Kohen Mashiach, Pasuk Gimel, Yechta, it's that. Pasuk Chabeis, Asher nosi Yechta, another case. Chav Zayin, V'im nefesh achta, Nachas techta, Bishkogo, Me'am ha'oretz b'aseisa. And that's exactly what he's saying in Shiur Zayin. Listen again. When we zamin, gam shigas mitzvahs. וזה שהכוסף אומר ויקרא שמי ששוגר ביום מצווה השם אשר לא יעשנו יעקב קורבן וזו מצווה that's the mitzvah מצווה אחר והוא שיעקב אשר יחטוס או אחר כך לימן הכוסף סייד הקורבן הזה וכוסף בוי פסוקים ואומר אם הוא אשר יגיע מהמורץ כך יעקב כזבו סירה he's saying over the parasha in the Torah, and he's saying the mitzvah is the overarching statement at the beginning of the parasha. I'm not here, Rabbi Sai, to try to explain every word in the Rambam. I'm here to explain what the issues are, and he's still Gemir. But I think the kasha is a reasonable kasha, and the base measures Rebbe tried, at least where I understood it, is to try to understand things, not to say stupid things that don't make any sense, which you yourself understand out of teretz. So, Shiur. Next. Now, Vizu, he atis kavua. So this korban, the overarching, the min korban is called chatas kavua. Kloima, shili olam chatas behema. I don't know if it's important that it's a chatas behema, but the more important thing, it doesn't change. And it's not like korban olav yored, which changes. And that's what he says in it's not like korban olav yored, which is lefi heseg yad mishtana, that changes lefi heseg yad achoite. See, that's what he says in umipnei zeh ha'inyan nikra olav yored ki hu lo yamod b'min echad avol yuvo mizeh hamin pamachas umizeh hamin pamacheres lefi heseg yad achoite shechayv lo v'korban. V'gam chatas kavua hi li'olam mimin ha'behema. So this is the difference. The kavua means that you don't change. It's always a behema. So the Rambam somehow is a synthesis of two different explanations. One, it's certain averis, and two, it's a certain min korban. וכבר ביארנו שהחטאים שישחייב על שגוסם חטוס זו הם שחייבים על זדוני קורס. So he's just telling you now that this is important. It's the mina korban and the various averis. Ubetnai shiur mitzvah leisaseh. He's saying v'shiyeh by ma'aser. So here he does himself a little disservice because what he actually did is he says that you need a loisaseh and you need a ma'aser. But he also is saying, if you look at Kvar Bi'alnu, Shachatoyim, she's chayav al shiras achatas, zu, chatas zu, heim shechiyom azdonokoris. But not everyone, because it's not Tumas Mikdash Kedosha. And I assume Bi'alnu probably is either referring back to something he wanted Cherish Shvi, or maybe more so in the Pirush Mishnayos increases. Because look what he says further. Kamo shehizboye bereish krisis. And that he says mufurish, because it's not really in the Mishnah that much, but it's in the Pirush HaMishnah, Perek Aleph Mishnah Beis. So you have to understand, Kvar Bi'alnu Kamo shehizboye, he's referring to what he said in Pirush HaMishnah. Okay? Umishpat mitzvah zu kuloi, hispar meseches horios, ukrisus, umekoimis mishabes, shvuos zvochev. That's chatas kavua. However, boys, I want to add one more thing. You have to keep in mind, you have to ask yourself a few questions, okay? Because we're just getting started. Why don't you do and flip it and say the opposite? Why don't you say the same way that a korban oil v'yered is a separate mitzvah because they're different averis, tumas mikdash kedoshim and others, maybe say that true, I agree with you, that Sionosi, Eskoi Moshiach, and Hedjit is one mitzvah, because it's really the same Avera. But however, when you get to the Avodah Zorah, and you have a different korban in Pasuk Shlach, why not say it is a separate mitzvah in Minyan HaMitzvos? It's a different Avera, it's Avera Mesuyames, and maybe the korban is, and it's a different type of korban, and maybe it should be a separate mitzvah. The Rambam in Shiur Shvi clearly says, "Vim hoyis hashkoga b'avodah zorah Yaakov shoyish seira," and he says like this: "Bein shehoya nasi, o hedjit, o kohen gadol." Loi. Then he says the important thing over here is that here the kohen gadol, the nasi, and the hedjit are the same. V'loi b'schalef minei baalei chayim sheyakev mem hakorban yisra ba'korban ho'echad shu korban shoygeg v'yoshu mitzvahs v'shtei mitzvahs. That should make it two mitzvahs. The fact that it's a different type of korban ve'eno inyan kein. Avol hatzivui b'korban hu mitzaseh ve'yois zeh maybe oiseh hakorban ba'atzmo yisira v'zeh yoviu sir hu mitnai oiseh hakorban. It's only fikah. They ain't called tonight, mitnai mitzvah yimna mitzvah. It's an amazing thing. The fact that it's on a chiyuv kolos, and this is a chiyuv kolos. And in some cases, we split, because basically, the nasi, since the nasi is the same, the nasi and the kohen hedjit, and the kohen gadol, the nasi and the kohen gadol and the hedjit are the same, that should make it one mitzvah. And it's the chaveru shoynos. But the Ram goes out of his way in the Akdama to say it's not like that. Look again in the Akdama to Zvachim. He goes like this. In the Akdama to Pirush Mishnayos and Mishnah, Umichlal elu ashloishim v'sholish averu shechayav ma'kol achas mehen korban kmo she'amarnu avodah zorah u'metame mikdash kedosha. So he's putting them all together. Going avodah zorah v'tumas mikdash kedosha. Avoteu hakorban shemakim al hashkoga asher tareh bi'achas mitzvahs elu kmo she'evaya. Im hayochid hazeh shogag b'avodah zorah hari hashogeg makriv Eiz bashnos lechatas bein shehoya hayochid hazeh melech oy hedjit oy kohen Moshiach. So we still don't know anything. It's different. It's like the Ram separates it there, like he separates it for Tumas Mikdash HaKadoshim. So I would say like this. The Rambam, I think, and this will be Akdoma to the next mitzvah, we'll have to take this up more seriously next week. The Rambam's opinion is that Oshem Tolui is the mirror image of Chatas Kavua. Wherever there's a chiyuv of Chatas Kavua, there's a chiyuv from Oshem Tolui. And there's no Oshem Tolui on Tumas Mikdash HaKadoshim. And that's the Ram says in Perek Chesed v'Shkogas Halacha Aleph, Kol Chet shechayov mashir gos Chatas Kavua chayovim al loyhida sheloi Oshem Tolui. And that's where the Rambam will see, and we'll talk with more barichas about Hashem next week, Bli Neder. That's why he counts Oshem Tolui as the next mitzvah. It's really like a set. There is Chatas Kavua and Oshem Tolui. An amazing thing, you can use the Oshem Tolui as a yardstick to say, is this Chatas Kavua or this is something else? There's no Oshim Toli, Rabbi Sai. In Tumas Mikdash Kodashim. There is an Oshim Toli in Avodah Zarah. And since that's the case, the Rambam puts them all together. And that's the Rambam says in Perek Aleph Halacha Daled Shkogas, Hari Elu Arboim B'Sholish Averi Shemevil Shigos Achatas Kavua Umahu Hakorban Shemevi Asheri B'Achas Ben Im Shoga B'Avodah Zarah maybe Eis B'Shnosa V'Chule. V'Im Oikoi Bein Shoya Choytei Hedit Oy Melech Oy Kohen Gadol O Meshur B'Chomo Hakol Shom B'Shikaz Olazor Am Shoga B'Achas Mishar Arboim B'Shtayim Imoye Hedi maybe this, Imoye this and that, Imoye Melech, that. Okay. And Koy Mashuach is something else. So that's the story. Avodah Zarah is B'chlau. He says, and that's what he's going out of his way, that this is the same korban. It's just that it's a different. This Haveir is this, and this is that, and the Torah happened to have, but it's really the same. The fact that Torah, it's an amazing thing. The fact that Torah was Machayv Korban Oil V'Yored takes him to a different class. And here, it remains in the same class. And I'm going out of the way again and again and again that it's the same class of Chayv Krisis. Mitzvah Hashem will talk about this in Mitzvah Hashem more. Batzlocha.